Yeah, we go recording in progress. So yeah, you were saying about how you didn't really have a real I mean not a real relationship, but you knew God, but you didn't really have that connection with him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Most of
What,
my
at what point, what happened? Did something happen that like with me, I went through some stuff and I was like, God, I'm sorry. And I it was a story in itself, right? But this is your story. But
dang, well, when you say it like that, there was a lot of moments.
but I know you went through a lot when you were little, right?
You know what I mean? Like with my relationship with God, what really
What
changed?
push what made you finally say, okay, God, I really want to know who you are? Or was there a moment like that?
When it comes to the moments of that, of there's there's two moments that I can think of where I I know that I wanted to know who God was and more because after being introduced to him and learning about Christian music and worship music, you're like, oh, at that is what I want. I want to be that man on stage,
Okay.
worshiping God with
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
But to do that, you have to have a relationship with him. And that pastor, when I was talking to him about joining a worship team, he told me straight up that I don't know who God was, and I don't, and my relationship with him needs to be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was offended. I was. I was offended because many things. I was 16. There are other 16-year-olds on stage that are worshiping God.
Yeah.
Why am I different? Um, Now they may have grew up in church. I didn't grow up like they did in church. But that was one of the the moments I was like, oh, okay, well, okay, I guess well I'll have to get to know him. Did I have conversations with God on a regular basis? When I was going through stuff, yes. There were times I would sit out in the backyard of the 50 acres my foster mom had in the field and just cry out to God and and most of it was, well, what's wrong with me? I've had an adoption that failed. What is wrong with me? Why does nobody love me? Why am I broken? Why why which is why of everything?
Yeah.
Um and I there was always great people who had great beautiful relationships with God. From the outside looking in, that's how it was. And for me, it was, well, I would like to get to know you. I would like, but 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 why? Why am I still going through this? Why am I still having to deal with this? Why this?
Was it so? I mean, you felt a lot of pain because of your childhood. You see everybody else with family and mom and dad. You didn't have that, and you felt like there was a lot missing. Is that what it is you're saying, or is that the why, or just you were just generally unhappy? You didn't know why.
I didn't. I know that I didn't love myself.
Hmm.
When I who I am now today, I can say most of the whys stem from I didn't love myself,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what love was.
Yeah.
So when you don't know what love is and you don't understand love, like the unconditional love that people provide for you,
Yeah.
um, you don't know, and because you don't know, you may get the sense of feel or that temporary happiness of some from something, but it's still not like God. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of the whys was okay. The biggest why of it all was nobody's gonna love me, one, because I'm gay. That's just it. Nobody has loved me. I've moved around a lot. I've had failed adoptions. Um, like I would say keeping friends too was hard
Yeah.
because I didn't know at some point they were gonna leave anyways,
Yeah. Oh,
was what I thought. And eventually it was, I'd burn a bridge or I'd cut ties because the just, it was easier for me to go through things alone, I felt.
so if people got too close, you kind of sabotaged it a bit.
Oh yeah,
Okay, I
definitely.
know what that's like. I
Self
know,
sabotage and
I did that
self
with a
doubt.
lot of women before my wife.
Yeah, yeah.
I did that a lot. Yeah,
I would say one of my biggest flaws back then, and I knew it, was self sabotage and self doubt. I
yeah.
didn't believe in myself. Um, I may have exuded confidence to people because people were like, damn, he's strong. He's gone through a lot. Damn, this. But they had no idea that behind closed doors, I was
You're
alone and
just putting that performance on to for the world.
broken and hurting so much. I got addicted to drugs for a while, meth. And I mean, I know it's hard to believe because of how good I look now, because, but dang, yeah, it happened. And my pivotal point for that was
Well, how old were you when that happened?
18.
18. Okay, that's around the same time I messed around with it too. Yeah.
Yeah, 18. It was right after I met my biological
Actually, no,
mom,
I was more like, yeah, I was 18. Yeah, yeah, right around that age. Me too.
young. And in the gay community, it's big,
Oh yeah.
people and a lot of homeless LGBT youth turn to, things that people, substance abuse, that to get them through hurt, emotion, pain, everything. Like, that's a temporary feel of, oh, I feel
Escape,
good.
escapism. Yeah. People
And
do that
it's,
with a lot of things nowadays, with all kinds of stuff. It's easier now. I mean, social media is a form of that. Too much video. I mean, I like the game, but too much. People they get lost in that world. They don't want to live in the real world no more. You know, I'm a gamer. You already know. PlayStation is the best station. Xbox is the food box. We can talk about that
no,
some other time. But anyways, but yeah, no, I get it, man. I mean, yeah, there's tons of escapism right now, and some are just more acceptable than others. Drugs are the obvious bad ones because you deteriorate so quick, but porn is another one. People use that, and anime could be, too much anime could be bad. I enjoy it. I watch a little bit of anime. I play my video games. I don't watch porn. So, but everything in moderation, I don't do drugs. I don't even drink. So
look, even food, people use
food,
that
food,
as
that's the biggest
a,
one. Thank you. I'm passionate about food, man. Nutrition. I coach tons of people, help them lose weight, reverse type 2 diabetes, all that stuff. Food is the biggest one. Biggest one. If you stop eating certain types of food, people go through a literal detox where they get sick, they can't go to work. So yeah, I mean, I get it, bro. But go ahead. You're saying?
oh yeah, I know, food is kind of, I've learned to, at least to me, in a sense of, for myself, I feel like if you're on drugs and you can get off of it and fill it with something else that's not as bad but can be manageable,
In
you know,
production. Yeah.
it's how I became a diabetic from
Oh yeah.
my,
We'll
yeah,
talk about that. I can help you with that too, man.
yeah, that's how I ended up becoming a diabetic, because when I got off of drugs and became sober, it was, oh, I need a feel that I can go to, whether it be, I did not want to go to the gym. That was not going to be it. Um, but and I was too scared to go out and make friends
Hmm.
or go out and try to do things out in social. So
So
I turned
how long were you on meth for? From 18 till
about 20,
okay, so a good 2 years. And
2021.
what made you finally want to give it up?
My best friend, um, is actually somebody I met while I was doped up. He I didn't tell him about it until after, like, we had been friends a bit, and he goes, "Oh, Josh, no. If you don't cut it out, I won't be your friend. Like I
That's
won't talk
awesome.
to you. I
Those boundaries
won't."
are important, man. Wow. Props to that guy. That's
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
I kind of was like, when he told me that, everything he had, every feeling I'd ever felt growing up was that shattered glass moment, because I couldn't lose the one thing that has been good to me, that has been, a support, a kind friend, a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And so I did. I shut myself out from the world for like 3 months and didn't leave the house. Um, Became clean, but then I needed to find a fill
Mhm.
on whether for my cravings or how to get back. Um, and so I turned to Pepsi, chocolate, and that's actually what got me into gaming, was because I needed to stay away from people, real people, because I knew that if I went out there to go out and have a drink with somebody, I'm the type of person that's like, they're like, "Oh, hey Josh, let's have a drink." Yeah. "Oh yeah, come on, I'll go." "Oh, hey Josh, you want to try this?" "Yeah, why not? What does it
You
do?"
get loosey goosey, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so since I live life on the edge, there's, you do bad, poor decisions. It's not like living, I say live life on the edge now, but live it on the edge with the Lord.
Yeah.
That's how
I
I
understand.
am, because
I'm a
it's,
rebel myself, man. I'm a trustworthy guy. Anybody that's friends with me knows I got their back. I don't cause trouble. I don't. When somebody meets me, their life is elevated. I don't take away from nobody, but I definitely push back against a lot of stuff that's evil and wrong, rebellious, big time against
oh
God.
yeah.
Jesus was a rebel, right? He rebelled against the church, against all that stuff. So if we follow Christ, we're rebels. We're going to be rebellious to the mainstream everything, you know?
That's actually where I'm at now. I feel like with my relationship with God, and I've learned that when you use your talents, I would say, that God has provided you with, when you use them for good, all things are just
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Like,
what I honestly believe in, I have three sons, right? And I talk to them all the time. I go, look, every man is here because God willed it to be. And because of that, he created man first, and we all have a mission. We have a mission in life, each and every one of us. I don't know what my son's missions are, Tom. I don't know. But it's my job. God has given you boys to me as a gift, and I love you, boy. I have a daughter too. I raise her differently than my boys, obviously, and I tell them my job is to help facilitate your life on this earth, to figure out what your mission is that God gave you. Once we can figure that out, you found your purpose. Once you found your purpose, you're happy. Whether your purpose is to preach on the street, whether your purpose is to be a worship leader, whether your purpose is to be like me and gather people's testimonies, doesn't matter. You fulfill that purpose. And when you're on that purpose, God clears the path, like I said. He puts things in front of you that he needs you to overcome, and he moves things that he doesn't need you to waste your time on. And that's happiness. You feel content. So I want to ask you, my brother, are you chugging along, figuring out your purpose? Are you almost there? What do you think?
I'm I'm in these stages of my purpose. I
Yeah,
do
you're
believe
getting there.
that that everything that I've encountered this year is setting me up for the future years.
Mm.
And that this year is a pivotal moment in my life, specifically because um I I took the necessary steps for myself to get closure in life from my childhood.
Yeah.
I went and I met my biological dad, and it was,
Yeah, I remember you kind of mentioned that to me. You want to tell me more about it? I'm curious. If it's up to
I
you,
man, I could tell you, I could, yes,
go for
I
it.
could. So I'd known growing up that that my parents weren't good people. My
Wait,
sister, my
before you tell me, did you want to meet him because Christ commands us to forgive and love everybody, or was it just something you want to do on just for you, or was it a combination of both?
I feel like it was I know it was God sending me there
Uh-huh.
specifically to get closure in my life, as
Okay.
well as take the next steps to do
Okay.
things
Okay.
that are unknown, like that were like you'd never
Before you
guess.
move forward, we gotta take care of this, God said. And you're like, yes. Okay, good. Keep telling me then. So you
Yeah,
huh?
and so one of my biggest like I've been working, I've been trying to get to know what grace is
Yeah.
and how that changes your life, and when you're really oh my goodness, I had one like that.
Yeah.
It was bad
Didn't
though. I
hear
had
it.
to get
You
rid
got
of it.
stuck in the room with me, but go ahead.
But my sister always, when she sent me a book, Why Grace Changes Everything, and I've
Mhm.
been reading it, and it's been telling me a lot. Like, you think your relationship with God, like you earlier when you were talking about how you were you had to do it on your own,
Yeah.
and I always thought that God was a miracle worker, that He's going to be moving mountains, and lights are going to shake, and you're going to have visions and all that. And so that's how I assumed it was going to be like.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's nothing like that, and it's different for everybody, you know. And because of this book that I was reading, is a good reason on why I was able to see what God did in every pivotal moment of my life to keep me safe, to keep me alive, to keep me moving forward. And
What's the
so
book called again? Grace what?
why grace changes
My
everything.
grace changes everything. Okay. I can remember that.
Very good book. Um, and so I never really, I mean, I met my biological mom. I knew she was crazy. Um, I knew uh, that she wasn't a good person.
Is she
But
still
then
around now or
she's in Mexico.
okay.
She'll be in jail soon.
So,
Um,
but your dad's here in Texas.
in jail, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I say she'll be in jail soon because I'm. It's gonna happen.
She's been running around loose for too long, huh? She needs to go away.
Yep, exactly. And so, I have a twin brother. I grew up thinking that he died, just died. There was
Mhm.
no real reason on how he died or what happened. My brothers and sisters would tease me saying that we cooked him for Thanksgiving, because I have a pigeon chest, and a pigeon chest one side sticks out further than the other, and
Oh, I
so
see. When the bot, yeah.
yeah, and so
Me too, a little bit. Me too, a little bit. Yeah.
so I always thought, oh dang, like um, and part of the feeling of growing up and not feeling whole was because of that. I knew I had a twin.
Yeah.
I'll never get to 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 feel what other twins get to feel because
Yeah.
they have them. And so I received a letter in the mail from the Texas Civil Commitment Center, which is the facility that it's a facility that is made to rehabilitate high risk sexual predators. Um, you know what? And I don't even know who funds it because it shouldn't be open. I feel like it shouldn't be. Um, and there is such thing as people in second chances. There is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I do believe that there is such thing that people don't change.
This is true.
And I used to believe that everybody can and will because I've changed. But see I've seen when I went to go meet my biological dad that it doesn't. People cannot. Some people won't.
Can I tell you what I think it is, man? So I believe everybody has the potential to change, but I'm almost 100% convinced that some of it is, well, a lot of it is spiritual, like as of demonic oppression. And sometimes there's layers and layers of that on people. And the only way for that to change is if they surrender themselves to Christ. No medication, no psychology, no rehab can do it. Only Jesus can. But Jesus isn't going to force himself on anybody. I think that's what it is with some people. With some people.
Yeah.
I've
Other
seen exorcism, bro. I've seen it when I was a kid. I've seen somebody get exorcised demon levitating. I've seen it. It's
Man,
yeah. I got some stories too, but this is about you, so
an
keep
eye
going.
opener.
Yeah, but you're
I,
okay. Your dad, he's not going to change. You said.
yeah, I don't think he will.
But
And
what about your brother? You were saying about your twin?
so I didn't know much about him. I knew his name was Martin. My name was Marcos. Um, and so I received a letter in the mail from the facility saying um, that he was like going to be released soon. He's working on this program. He's on level 4 or 5. He should be released out to the public. And I was like, what? Um, and I thought, and my some of my Christy actually was like, well, are you going to go see him? And I was like, ooh, I don't know. I've never thought to. I've never
Yeah,
had the desire. Um, you know, why why would I? And then I thought about it and I was like, maybe I should because I want to know everything.
yeah,
Everything. I want to know why he turned out the way he did, what happened. Like you remember earlier when you said that something happens to us
yeah,
and it changes. It just that's how we grow off of.
yeah.
And I had known he was a sexual predator. I didn't know how dangerous or how horrific everything was until I went and he I remember sitting in the room. He walked in and he knew that my sister was not going to be going. My little sister that he actually has had contact with previously. He knew she wasn't going because she told me that he called her the night before and was like, "Oh, are you going?" She goes, "No, I'm not." So he knew I was going, but he pretended like he didn't know. So he walked in the room and he goes, "Oh, where's my daughter?"
Hmm.
And the lady goes, "Oh, your daughter's not here, sir. It's the gentleman over there in the blue shirt." And he goes, "Well, I don't know who that is." And she's like, "Oh, his name is Josh. That's one of your sons." And he goes, "My what? One of my sons, Josh? No, he lives far." They're like playing it off like, and I'm thinking to myself,
Mind games from the beginning, huh?
from the jump. And I thought to myself at the moment, wow, that's so sweet of them. They gave like they made it a surprise for him, I guess, because it would be my first time meeting him.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
Um, and so he sits down in front of me, real cold, like just stone cold face, no emotion. And he goes, "Oh, well, what do you want to talk about?" I said, I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about you.
Yeah.
I said, I want to know everything from the start to finish. What happened, your childhood, why did you turn out the way you did, what your decisions you've made. I know you abused my two sisters. I don't know how, like what you did, but I know you something happened because she doesn't want to talk like she won't have anything to do. She won't she's moved away like
Yeah.
completely. She's very cautious with life, everything. I said, so it's dangerous. And she told me that he's a dangerous man. Um, and that he told me, well, about his childhood, bringing up, he didn't live with his parents, moved around, um, went to the Navy, got married. And then he said that the sexual abuse had started when he met my biological mom, and she had told him to do these things to the two girls, and I was like, okay, so he's, which I later had found out that still not even true. Like he wasn't honest with me about anything because
Kind of
it
put
had
the
happened.
blame on her.
It had happened before we were born and stuff. So I was like, wow. Well, then I asked him about my twin brother, and I had known, but it had been discussed when I went to Mexico to be my biological mom that they had murdered him because they got money.
Yeah.
And I don't know how life insurance works, but when I know how crazy works.
Yeah.
And because I know how crazy works, I could totally see someone saying, okay, well, I have two. I only need one.
Yeah. How old were you guys when that happened?
The death certificate is November 18th, 1993. So we were almost 4 months. And so I'm, I actually got banned from talking to my biological dad as of like 2 weeks ago because I broke the rules going into the facility. Um, they would not let me write down questions.
Hmm.
They wouldn't let me send the questions and then they printed out for me. They said no about everything I asked for. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I want the answers and I want to be able to remember everything.
Yeah.
So I took my watch because the first day I went, I didn't take the watch. And I noticed they didn't say anything about the watch that the other gentleman had when he was visiting his family. And it wasn't a smartwatch, it was just a regular watch. So I thought, oh, I'll just take my watch. And so I took my Apple Watch inside and I started recording all of his answers that he was giving me and everything that he was talking to me about.
Hmm.
But it allowed me to get names and everything like that I needed.
Mm.
And so when we were talking, he told me that my biological mom had killed my twin brother and that, because of all the abuse she had caused him to do to the girls, that it that and she was so quick to like, hey, we need to get the money. He said, well, she did it. And I thought to myself, you you knew this, but you've never spoken about it to anybody in the prison and your case management. And I found that out because I talked to his case manager and I told him. He goes, well, how do you know all this? I said, well, I have the recording. I have
Yeah.
the
Confession, basically.
and he goes, oh, which I later found out. I think that's the reason I got banned from everything. But I told him I was like, I'm gonna go after it. Like I know where my brother is buried now, so I'm gonna go visit his grave. And so for Thanksgiving, I went to go visit his grave, but there was no grave.
Hmm.
There was no gravestone. There was no like nothing with his name on it. Just a plot of dirt where he should be. And so when I talked to the lady at the cemetery, she told me um, that the property owners have to sign it over. And I thought, well, I have this confession from him. My sister, who is 40, remembers everything because she's like 2 years younger than my mom. So with my confession and her testimony, I could do something with this. And so I called the DA in San Antonio and they told me I had to open up a case. And because the case has never opened on his death, 90,
Yeah.
1993 is a long while back.
Yeah.
But my sister was like, well, Josh, how crazy is it that they've been 31 years without answering to what happened?
Yeah.
And who'd have thought 31 years later he confesses to you and you're the one to get justice for your twin?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that is so wild too, because I never in a million years would have thought that this would be me doing this at
Yeah.
this age. Um, but it's not fair.
No. Yeah.
And I know that even if they don't answer to the government we have today, they still have to answer to God
Oh, yeah.
for it. Would I like to see them answer today with yes, I
Yeah.
would. Um, but it's okay because it's in God's hands now. I did every step that I was told to do, and now it's just a waiting period on see what happens next. But I know from seeing my biological dad and hearing him talk that we're so much alike but so different
Mhm.
because when I talk about using your talents from Christ in a good way, I feel like I could go talk to anybody and have them motivated to go move mountains in seconds.
Yeah.
I feel like with my leadership, even at work, the way I am. I've been one to have everybody rebel and not go to work because they have me messed up and they got them messed up. Like it's I have that type of tongue.
Yeah.
And when people see the type of how I lead and how much I fight for them too, like I can't just fight for you. You have to fight for yourself too.
Yeah.
And that type of relationship is like that's what I get because when I go through something now, I know that I'm not alone. I know God is in my corner, and if I meant to fail, it's not really a failure for me because I'm learning from it.
Yep.
And so so that's how I take everything and I've seen how your talents can work for bad and where you end up, and I've seen how it gets when you use them for good and want to do good with them. I feel like that's where I'm at with my relationship with Christ is because of I know that I have these great gifts from him
Hmm.
and I can only do good with them. I mean, I could go out there and probably talk somebody from the bank to hand me $1 million and then run off, but what good does that do for
Yeah, no,
me?
that's
Because then now I live my life in running and in fear and all this stuff when
yeah, no, no.
but it's that's where it is and I'm blessed to have all the stepping stones to get to where I am um, with the people, the every foster home I've encountered, adoption that's failed, the the relationships with just everybody that I come across.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a blessing.
Yeah. All right, that's good, man. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. You ready?
Yeah.
I sent them to you already, but I kind of want to ask you a little bit different. So like I sent that message to you asking, what do you where do you see yourself as of not professionally, but like your walk with Christ? Like for me, we have yet to find a good church here in San Antonio. We tried a couple, but we saw some glaring things that were just not biblical, and we had to leave. I'm always on the road anyway, so it's more for my wife and kids. We're gonna end up back in Hawaii probably in 2 or 3 years when my mother-in-law passes because she's with us. We're gonna go back. We're mainly here because of her. We couldn't bring her to Hawaii. Um, she's got a breathing condition. She barely made the drive over here. So we're here for her. My sons are in a good Christian kind of private school. So I want to get back to Hawaii, buy some land. I want to open up, and I hope God signs on my plans. I think He will, but these are my dreams. I want to be able to open up. There's the curriculum my boys take for the Christian school they're in, Christian private school.
Uh-huh.
It's like a hybrid homeschool. It's a curriculum you can buy. It's like a subscription, and then you can just teach it to kids, right? And I want to help people on the Big Island on Hilo that the school system kind of sucks over there. I want to offer that to some of the parents around there. I want to get a community together. I want to build a little facility and have all the kids come homeschool. When I have grandkids, be part of the homeschool. I want to create a homeschooling hybrid program for kids and invest in the children, right? Show them
Oh
what
yeah.
healthy. Me and my wife have the best marriage. I want to have us as the example of a God-fearing wife, a God-fearing father, my masculine sons, my feminine daughter. I want to be able to do that and glorify God through my family and teach the kids while they're little, right? That's what I want, but that's long term. As of immediate, I'm just trying to make money and not fall off track. I want to stay focused. I don't want to get distracted. The devil's throwing a lot of distractions, so that's mine. So I just tell you
Yeah.
an example. I mean, what about yourself? What do you see? Or am I asking you something you haven't thought of recently?
With my no, yeah, I definitely with myself, um I would like to go back. So back maybe like I'm 31, maybe about 8 or 9 years ago, right at the beginning of my sobriety, I wanted to help people um who were who didn't have the support because I know what it's like to not have that. And a lot of people do. I'm getting more involved with work to try and get people to volunteer to do things more, whether it be go to the animal shelter or go give back to foster kids.
Yeah.
And that because that hits home for me. And because I worked so long in that field, I had to get away from it um 2 years ago because it was like, well, I'm gonna be here the rest of my life. And I see people who work there and they devote their whole life to that in the form of them working for there. But to me it wasn't work anymore because it was me living there. And it was like, you see those like little memes of stuff that says, "Oh, I've just now realized that I live at work and I visit my home."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to me, that's what it was. I visited home and I lived at work. So I needed to find a different way to get out of that and yet still have my passion for giving back from where I come from. Um, and so the next couple steps for my hope, like which my plan is hopefully what God's plan is for me, would be to to open an organization and work with the other organizations that I've been with downtown or down in the Montrose area for the homeless LGBT youth, just to provide more support. Um, I'd like to work on my organization that I started back 8, 9 years ago to help people. Like one of the focuses we tried back then, but didn't have the resources that I have now, would have been to help not just with our support groups that we have there, but for people who are older and are sick. Sometimes they don't have anyone to go take them to a doctor's appointment, or they don't have that type of. They sometimes they don't drive, and you wither out um, alone. And I don't want somebody to ever have to
Yeah.
wither out alone. So that would be what I think I'm supposed to
You're
be
a giver,
working on.
man. You're a giver. You want to give love to the world, even though you didn't get a lot growing up. That's good, man.
Oh, wait. I think I got enough to get me where I
En-
was I need to be.
Enough to have you survive, huh?
Yeah. Do I
Yeah.
think I should have? I needed more. Absolutely. Everybody needs a little more love.
You can never spoil somebody with love. Like I had to school, like, I got my kids and friends of mine that have kids. Oh, you spoil your kids. Because I'm affectionate with my kids. I'm gonna hug them and give them all kinds of love. And somebody said to me way back when, "You're spoiling them." I go, "So what do you mean spoil them?" I go, My kids know I'm a hammer. But one thing they'll never, ever, ever say they didn't get is love and affection. Love is pure. Love is good. You just I hug them, I kiss them, I tell them I love them, tickle them, roughhouse with them, but they don't get away with anything. They know they are held to a high standard. So they may be spoiled with love, which is not even spoiled. They got more than enough love to a point where they're never gonna go out in the world looking for love in all the wrong places. They got more
Yeah.
at home. You better if you're gonna say you got love for them, you're competing with the love I gave them. So I think it's good to top them up with love so they're not looking to fill it somewhere else and then they get love from the wrong source, right? They go off in the world knowing they're loved, confident in themselves, no matter what. Dad and mom always here. We love you, even when I'm freaking gone from this earth. I gave them enough love to last to their great grandchildren. So you can't spoil people. Love, no way. You can spoil them with other stuff for sure, but not with love. Heck no.
That
Yeah.
that's good to hear. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
nice. You don't ever hear
What I
people
always
talk
tell
like that.
everybody when I'm done talking to them is, look, I love everybody. Right? Not like I love my wife and kids. That's a different type of love. A video I did, the guy was really good talking about. He said agape love. It's the love you have, like unconditional love you have for your kids or your family. And then that's the love I have for you. I choose to love you. I see you're a good guy. I like you and I have affection for you because I see God's love in you. So I love you because of that. You know what I mean? Somebody on the street, I've prayed for homeless people on the street. I love them too. Now, am I gonna go take a bullet for them? My loyalties are for my family. I gotta stay alive for them. I can't, you know what I mean? I maybe instinctually I might go and run into a building if there's a bunch of little kids. I gotta save them, but it's a different type of love. So love is a choice. It really is, and I've been learning that this last year. So, brother, I love you, man, and I'm here for you. We'll be friends for life. Maybe you'll get to meet my family one day. But we still have another question. Now, this is a big one because of because sexual sin. Now, I have a perspective on this that I haven't really heard most people talk about. I listen to a lot of like apologists and debates and all this stuff. And I know right now it's kind of polarized because a lot of the LGBTs being, that stuff's being pushed in people's faces and people are very pissed off at it and angry and like, oh, yeah. And I think it's a sin just like any other sexual sin. But I want to expand on that, but I want you to tell me how you kind of reconcile that. I don't know how I mean, you're gay, like you said. Um, you know, hold on a second. Stupid thing. Okay, the timer's not going yet. Hey, like you said, God loves you no matter what. God loves it doesn't matter who you are. God loves you. So whether God loves you or not, that's without question. He does love all of us. But how do you feel about it? I mean, it's just I'm just curious to get your thoughts on that, on sexual sin, the gay thing. I know last time one time we talked, you said I've been doing my own thing, that you haven't been messing around with nobody.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because my testimony is so different from others, but yet so
Like, say that
alike,
again,
like
you're
some
what?
of,
You're
because
what?
my story is so different from
Okay.
others,
Uh,
and yet so alike like others.
mhm.
Um, I know people who have been sexually abused. I know people who haven't. My um intimacy for me is not fun. Like being intimate sexually with another man is because I have I have it's tied to so many of my drug
Oh,
uses, and
okay.
so I feel like anytime I ever would try to be intimate or think about it, I go back to the being on drugs and doing
Yeah.
all these crazy things, and I don't. So and it's so wild because I think about I've prayed so much about like, okay, well, what is it? What is what is it really? My one of my sisters, I asked her if I were to get married to a man, would you go to the wedding? She would have to pray on it, and I was like, what? What do you mean pray on it? You have to go anyways. I'm your brother. But then again, we all know that it is a sin, and so um my other sister, she tells me to, she's messed around with girls, and she has a fiance now, and they've messed around in groups and stuff, and so she actually sat me down one day and was telling me, she was like, well, Josh, being gay is a sin. It's just a sin. And I was sitting here thinking, weren't you just sleeping with that girl and your fiance the other, like, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
And she, in her
Okay,
words,
hold on. This cat's meowing. He wants to get out.
oh yeah.
He's starting to complain to me. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And I remember thinking that, you're over here telling me this, but yet you're doing all this, the same stuff that you're saying that you shouldn't be doing. And I don't, I've, I've learned that no sin is greater than one another. Like, it's not, it's all equally sinful.
We all have our sins that we wrestle with.
Oh yeah. And I would say one of mine is definitely the encounter with another man, because I don't like, there's just no, it's no good feeling for me, to be honest.
That's interesting.
And I always think, well, is there ever going to be a man that I can have a good feeling with?
You gotta try a woman.
I was married to one for before.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, I
Too
just,
much to your story, man. You got too much. I didn't
I
even know.
don't, yeah, I don't think, and I'm starting to see this now. Like, I'll see somebody who's handsome, and I'm like, oh, dang, they're so handsome. But because intimacy something isn't me, I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, well, what if I'm meant to not settle down with somebody? That is a very big possibility for me, because
That's interesting.
When I live making my decisions of of trying to live right by God and acting, what would Jesus do? The living in walking, having my relationship with Him. My thought doesn't go to, oh, I need to be dating somebody or I need to get married. It doesn't. I don't think about it at all.
That's
Would I
interesting.
like to have kids? Yeah, I would love to be a dad,
Yeah.
but I don't need to have a spouse.
You could
And
adopt it.
then that's true.
Or
But
you
in
could
my
do
mind,
what's the other thing?
the surrogates,
Were they artificial insemination?
yes,
Yeah.
the surrogate, have a lady carry it for you. But yeah, I don't. So for me, I constantly ask God, I'm like, well, if there is somebody I'm supposed to marry, I don't care who it is at this point. I mean, do I feel like He's gonna send him on my front door and delivery, like, that type thing? No, I mean, obviously it might not happen like that. But if
Yeah.
it happens, it'll happen. And I'm at the point of my life where my life is more focused on what I'm supposed to be doing
Are you
with
supposed to be
God,
serving
for
God?
God,
Yeah.
versus trying to go have a relationship with somebody or go. I mean, I talk to all the dating apps and stuff, and somebody will message me and be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I move around. I'm not looking for hookups. Like I'm like, do you want to come over and watch a movie though? Like, be friends. That's something I would be down for. I'd love to have more friends, especially friends who probably. I have a gay friend also, John. He, uh, we listen to worship music together. We praise God together. We've been to Christian concerts together. Um, and we talk about, like, our faith and our struggles and stuff. I'd love to have more of that. And I feel like a lot of the times people are too scared to, especially in the gay community, to address that or say, well, I struggle with that too. They just
Yeah.
think, oh no, it's fine. Oh no, you're wrong, or oh, that's old. It's 2025 soon. Like, but
I firmly stand against that type of talk because God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. You know?
always,
Yeah. Yeah. That, so, you said, and it kind of segues good into kind of my perspective on just sexual sin in general. So, like I just said, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. It's not like He changes with the culture. No, we got pulled away from His original design back in the garden, right? Eve did her thing, Adam followed her, and it's been a mess ever since, right? We have a readiness factor to sin, right? We want to sin, we love our sin, and the whole thing that Jesus came for is like, look, you guys are going to sin no matter what. There's nothing you could do. Now, how do you contend with your sin? Do you make excuses for it? Do you justify it? Do you twist scriptures to fit your lifestyle, or do you really follow what Jesus said, right? So with sexual sin, it's the biggest. If you really, really think of it, it's one of the number one problems in the world right now. Think of all the kids that were born to parents that shouldn't have had kids. How did that happen? They were focused on their sexuality. They're just getting busy having kids like rabbits that they should have never had, or even parents that maybe weren't too destructive. They just married the wrong person. They got divorced, and then these kids come from a broken home. I mean, like the majority of people in prisons right now are folks that came out of single family homes. They didn't have both parents. Especially, you could have two parents that are not even compatible, and they could cause a big problem for the kids, right? So sexual sin, if we, it's just a huge problem. I think about myself when I think about sexual sin for myself. Before my wife, I had girlfriend after girlfriend, like three girls at one time. I've known my wife since I was 11. And I always had a crush on her. So when we decided to get together, I was like, well, this is Deanna. And there was a couple of girls kind of lingering in my life. And she was like, hey, are we doing this or what? And I was like, yes. And I dropped them. But from that day till this day, especially when I had my business, I had girls throwing themselves at me and I got tempted. Really like Jezebel spirit coming on me, trying to make me cheat. I've never cheated on my wife, but I had 150 opportunities to do it. And the lust that I used to have. It's gotten better because I submitted myself to God. I was like, I don't want to wrestle with this anymore. I don't want to feel this way towards these women. I don't want to look at a girl with a nice, you know what, and then perverted thoughts, and I'm disrespecting my wife mentally. So that was my struggle with it. But imagine if I were to make excuses for it. Well, it's my natural desires. What would that do? The destruction that would cause in my home. Oh my goodness. My wife probably, who knows what would happen to her. My kids, my sons would hate me, probably turn to drugs and destruction. My daughter, it would be a generational curse because I gave in to my sexual sin.
Oh
So
yeah.
heterosexual sexual sin, I think, can be more destructive than homosexuals sexual sin, right? And a lot of these debaters, these apologists go, look at Sodom and Gomorrah. God destroyed it because of the homosexual. Yeah, that's true. But imagine if it was just a bunch of straight dudes getting a bunch of women pregnant and leaving a bunch of bastards everywhere. God would have destroyed that town just the same. So sexual sin, whether it's straight men, gay men, it's a problem. And we have to deny ourselves those instincts, right? And like with you, what you said, that you're just focused on God and you think about it, it's no fun. Man, God could be pulling you in a direction. He could be using you as an example. Like, look at my son here. He's still very much in his I don't know, femininity or whatever you want to call it, but he has discipline. He serves me. He doesn't give in to his ready to sin factor. He denies it. He denies it and he serves me. I haven't given him a partner because his life is meant for me. You know what I mean? Is you're showing restraint just like I show restraint. And most men out there, I don't know if you know what the red pill community is, the Andrew Tates of the world.
Oh no.
Well, you know how Andrew Tate is? He's this player.
The
He talks about
yeah.
money. Like there's a wave of these type of men coming in the world right now, and I want to just destroy them all. Not physically, but I want to get them and debate them and crush them and be like, you guys are promoting men to just like use women and have them like trophies instead of loving them and protecting them and guiding them through their life and turning them into mothers and you know what I mean? It's like there's another form of sexual sin coming in where a bunch of men are looking to make money, get in shape just to be having two or three or four wives. There's men out there that are trying to push polygamy, having multiple wives. That's a huge problem too. So sexual sin is a problem for society, no matter what demographic you look at. And God, like I said, God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And his command is very, 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 very clear. Like man and woman, let's get together, love me. He don't even want my sons having sex before they get married. You know how hard that's going to be for me to justify that to them, but that's the burden I carry. So sexual sin is a serious problem. Imagine if all the men in this world would say, no, I'm going to focus on God and I'm going to focus on building myself up to be financially responsible, and then I'll marry a woman. And then I'll get her pregnant, and we're just gonna have sex after marriage. Imagine if all the women were be like, no, no OnlyFans, no Instagram model stuff. I'm gonna put my chastity belt on. And
Yeah.
imagine, bro, how many problems would disappear, right?
A lot.
A
A
lot, right? So it's like
lot
my
of
take on
problems.
everybody's picking on the LGBT community right now because it is being pushed by corporations on everybody. And it's too much, it is. But I want whoever listens to this video to understand it's easy to pick on that community right now because it's being pushed on everybody. But don't you dare think the other side is okay too. Womanizing and having sex with a bunch of females and being a dog, that's just as destructive. At least when two gay dudes get together, they don't make a baby that ends up, in a broken family. Heterosexual men too, you got to control your stuff too. Have discipline, have strength, right? So sexual sin, it's a problem no matter how you look at it, man. So I mean, when you told me that one time, I asked you, I was like, you got somebody in your life? I don't know if you remember. When you were at the guard check, I pulled up and we were talking. I was like, well, you got somebody? Like, no, I'm just doing me. I was like, why? You're like, I just want to focus on myself or something like that. I was like, I gained a little bit of respect for you at that point. I was like, all right, this guy's on the next, he's thinking outside of himself, not just giving into his lustful desires. So
Yeah,
I
because
give you credit for that, man. I remember that. You probably don't remember.
it's always been, and I always thought maybe it's because of the being addicted to drugs and tying drugs to that for so long.
Uh-huh.
But you know, like when you play with fire, when you grow up, you're taught, oh, don't touch the stove, it's hot, and then you do it, and you're like, ah, it's hot, and then you don't ever want to do it again. and you won't do it again. That's kind of
Yeah.
how it's been for me. It's with
Yeah.
that. I use that because it's to I have not really had any good encounter with anybody
Yeah.
that it's kind of been like, okay, well, I'm maybe a year ago is when I finally started thinking, what if I'm meant to be by myself? Would that hurt? Would that be bad? It really wouldn't,
Yeah.
because I could still do everything I want to do, that I'm supposed to do, that I feel like I should be doing. Um, and I could still share those same joyous feelings with my little sister, going on a road trip with her, going to visit them in San Antonio, going to, if I go to Mexico with her to go, what would I go there for? I don't know, because I don't want to go back ever again. But yeah, just those different types of things, and that that that's kind of how it's been, where it's been as far as the sexual sin for me, and a lot of, I feel like most, at least homosexuals, will feel like we struggle with the relationship aspect of having a relationship with God. I actually met a guy earlier this year. We were talking about it. He said, I think I'm meant to be with you. And I was like, no, you're not meant to be with me. But I was meant to be in his life for a reason.
Yeah.
And when I learned that the reason was because he had just overcame cancer, brain cancer at that. He felt like nobody was going to love him. And so that was because that moment we were sharing there on the beach at night was because I was meant to tell him, you you're feeling all this. Those are the exact same feelings I was feeling.
Yeah.
You have to go back to God. You have to go back to him. You have had a relationship with him. You gave up on it because of what people say. Don't listen to what people say. You need to go have your relationship with him. I was like, somebody once told me when I was sick that you can't fight for your life. Like, I mean, you can, but you have to give it to God, and you also have to fight for it. It's not just a one way thing or one person thing. It's a you and him thing.
Yeah.
It's a you, because you can ask God to 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 cure yourself of whatever it is you're going through. But if you're just gonna lay there and be like, oh, if
Yeah. Yeah.
I die, then I'll die.
Yeah.
But
You gotta meet him at least a quarter of the way, at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
something. And so I was telling him that, and I explained to him, and he was so set on, oh, I think we're supposed to be dating, we're supposed to be together. I was like, nah, homeboy, I don't feel that way for you. I think I'm just supposed to, this is what I'm supposed to tell you. Like, you need this. And I could be a friend, but that's all.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the times we with the books that I told you about, it says that when you live in your fleshly desires, you do more what your body wants.
Yeah.
But when you feed your relationship with Christ, that becomes your priority focus. That becomes your next, everything that you go through is that the
Yeah.
steps of what you live by. And that's what I've learned in this most recent, like, 6 months, that's where happiness is.
But yeah, bro, I mean, I think it's definitely, man, you got your story, the things you've experienced, you definitely got a purpose, a big purpose here. And he's using you, and he's going to use you, man. I mean, I think it's awesome how you're more concerned and more in love with serving God than you are giving into your fleshly desires. I mean, that's all. I think that's one of the main thing Jesus asked of us is like deny your flesh and follow me. You know what I mean? And I know I gotta deny my flesh plenty of times. I mean, not just in lust, but anger. You know, I used to fight. So sometimes I want to go beat people up. I'm like, no, I can't do that. You know, so it's
That's
like
me.
there's a lot of things as men. The enemy wants to distract us, pull us away, throw us in the world and let us get lost. And you've overcome a lot, man. So I just keep doing what you're doing, brother. I want to know what happens, man. I want to check in with you maybe what's this? We're in December, maybe in the middle of maybe summertime. Just kind of update, see what's going on, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, bro. Heck yeah. Right on. So, okay, you want to say anything in closing, man? If there's a little Josh out there listening, somebody out there that you might want to have some advice for that doesn't know that think what I realized is people have a idea of who Jesus is. That's not the real Jesus. They think
That's
the mainstream version of him of just some little hippie who just wants to sniff flowers. And I'm like, no, the Jesus I know from the Bible, he's disciplined, he's strong, he's a leader, he's amazing, and he's filled with love. So, well, you got a message for somebody out there?
I would say to yeah, to don't be afraid to go and learn and not and when I say don't be afraid, I mean the wondering about what other people are gonna think. Because I myself had struggled with that of, well, are my gay friends gonna think something, or like are they, or one of the biggest reactions I get when I'm driving in the car with friends, new friends, they're like, what is this? I'm like, worship music. We're going to the club. What you mean? We're praising Jesus on the way to the club because that's how we're getting there from the grace of the God. So
Yeah,
so like that, and they always laugh because when we leave the club, worship music again. What? No, yes, that's what I listen to. It's a good thing. I know that every step I'm moving is because of God. Every breath that I'm taking is because of Him, and I don't. I used to so much. I say used to, like, because I told myself I will never be ashamed to say that I know God. I would never be ashamed to worship. I'll be at work walking around and just putting my hands up, just praising God because I feel it in my bones when I'm listening to songs or scriptures or people's testimony, and I'm like, yes, like that all glory to Him, because it's when you live in fear, you miss out on some things. You miss out on great things. You miss out because and you don't ever want to live in the what if. What if this had happened? What if I had done this? No,
yeah,
go do it.
man.
Go do it because that, that Bible study group, I kind of wanted to go do it. No, 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 go. If you have that inkling thought of, that sounds like, do it, because you may meet somebody who could be your best friend. You may meet somebody who you might be able to help more than and they might need you more than you thought you needed them at the time. And it really does, uh, it makes a beautiful, like Charlotte's Web, spider web. Everything is connected somewhere. And if you do go have that relationship with God and don't be afraid of what other people feel or say or the judgment, because those people who are judging you, those people who are saying that, oh well, you know, they no, they don't have that relationship. They may be strayed away, they may be, but you know what? You could be the one to bring them back. You could be the one to put God back in your family's life, and it changes for the better.
Man, brother, I love it, man. Cool. Well, then let's wrap it up, man. Uh, I'm gonna have to break this up probably into two videos, but I will be saying to you soon, man. Thanks again, brother. I appreciate you sharing your story. I know there's a lot more. Maybe we'll do a part two sometime. I don't know, but I appreciate your time, bro. And like I
I
said,
appreciate you.
I'm your brother, man. I love you. You ever need something, you give me a holler. Okay, man?
Definitely. All righty.
Brother. All right, man. Thanks again, bro. Appreciate
All
it.
right. You have a good one.
All right, bye.